All right, so what we're gonna work on right now in this video is lesson 1.9, order of operations. This is on page 46. And like I said, if you don't have your supplies out, I recommend you stop what you're doing. Make sure you have paper, make sure you have pencil to write with. Make sure you title your notes as lesson 1.9, order of operations. And you put page 46, you go to page 46 on your paper and in your textbook, okay? You could write this at the top. You could just go to it in your textbook, but that's what you should do before we continue. And today's lesson is order of operations, which some of you may have heard of, some of you may have not. Good news is this is actually the end of chapter 1. So meaning at the end of this, you should actually not move on to chapter 2. You should actually go to do the chapter 1 test. Make sure you've done all the quizzes before that, okay? But you can take the chapter 1 test, which covers everything from lesson 1.1 to 1.9, okay? So we're going to start off with order of operations. And the key word here is order, okay? Order, because order tells you when to do what. Now, in this specific case, it says operations. So you might be wondering, what do they mean by operations? Well, not like a surgery operation. This operation means, am I doing adding? Am I doing dividing first? It tells you the order of how to add or subtract or multiply or divide or do any type of math. And in this case, I would like you to write down these letters, PEMDAS, also known as PEMDAS, okay? Now, these letters will tell you the order of how to solve a problem with multiple adding or subtracting or dividing or all that. So I wrote it out like this. Some teachers put PEM, then they put DAS right underneath. I kind of like to write the M, the D, and the A and the S side to side, and you're going to see why that is in a bit. But each one of these stands for something. And that first one, that letter P, stands for parentheses. So you're going to write this down. This is very important that you write this down. You see this all throughout math, especially all throughout high school math. So don't ignore it. Please write this down. Parentheses is the first part. Then the E stands for what we worked on last class, exponents. M is to multiply. If this is multiply, D is to divide, A is to add, S is to subtract. And you follow the order PEMDAS or PEMDAS. So you can read it as, if you want to remember it, you can remember it as PEMDAS, or you can try to remember it as the following, right? If you want to make sure you know each part, there's a quick little riddle that will help you make sure you're doing each part right. And that's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, Mrs. Elliott, what does this mean? Well, if I say this phrase, it will kind of help me know that P or please, P parentheses goes first, E goes second or exponents, M goes third or multiply, D goes fourth or divide, A goes fifth and add, and S subtract, which is last. However, if you notice, I wrote M, D next to each other and A and S next to each other, and you're going to see that now as we work on skill check number 1. If you go to skill check number 1, and this is on page 47. So I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to do 2 of them. I'm going to do questions 2 and 3. So I'm going to start off with question 2, which looks like this. 27 divided by 3 plus 6 times 2. And again, you're probably wondering, How do I know, am I supposed to add first? Am I supposed to multiply? Am I supposed to divide? Well, a quick way to go about it is, the best way I can explain it to you, go in order, follow parentheses. Do you guys see any parentheses here for number 2 on your skill check 1? I don't. So I already know that I don't need to do this step. The next step is exponents. Do you see any exponents? I don't. Let's go on to the next part. Now multiply or divide. It's actually either one, and you're going to see what I'm going to write here. From left to right. In other words, I'm going to look from left to right, and if I see multiplying or dividing first, that's what I'm going to do. So let's see. I'm going to move starting from the left. Do you see multiplying or dividing? Hey, yes I do. I see 27 divided by 3. And that's what I'm going to solve first. If it helps, try to draw little arrows, okay, pointing to 27 and 3, and you're going to actually divide them. 27 divided by 3, well, that gets you 9. So now, Mrs. Elliott, what do I do with the rest of these numbers? The plus 6, the times 2? Well, what you should do is actually just rewrite them. Put plus 6 and times 2. I did not do any of that math, so I don't need to touch it. Now the next part, we're still on multiply or divide. We still need to look from left to right because sometimes, remember, there's more than one multiplying and one dividing. We got this. We don't need to write the numbers 27 and 3 because we solved with the numbers 27 and 3, which was just 9. Now let's see if we have any more multiplying or dividing. Are these multiplying or dividing? Nope. Let's keep going. How about these? Are these multiplying or dividing? Yes, they are. I have 6 times 2, and 6 times 2 is 12. Now, whatever I did not use, again, I just bring it down. Did I use the 9? Nope. Bring it down. And did I use that plus sign? Nope. Bring it down. Now, there's only one final part left. It's just 9 plus 12. So, we're almost done. If you need to do 9 plus 12 off to the side, that's okay. It does get you 21, and that is my final answer. So you see how PEMDAS, or parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, adding, and subtracting, help you out with the order of how to solve something? Hopefully you can tell that this helps a lot. And you're going to see how it helps as we do that same skill check 1. We're going to do question 3 just over here. And it says 36 divided by, parentheses, 3 plus 6 times 2. Now we're solving each part out. And remember, you should always go in the order of PEMDAS. You should not just start off dividing just because you see it first. Check to see if there's any parentheses here. Do you have any parentheses here? Yes, you do, right there. So I'm going to solve what's inside the parentheses. And once I solve it, I can kind of get rid of it. It's going to look something like this. Let's solve these two. It says that there's a plus sign. I need to get rid of that parentheses. So let's actually add them. 3 plus 6 is 9. And now we are going to just basically write out whatever we didn't touch. I didn't touch the 36 and division sign. And I'd never touch the times or the 2 sign. Leave that alone. Now next, do I see any more parentheses? I don't. Okay, now it's time to look at exponents. Do you see any exponents? Nope. How about multiply or divide from left to right? From left to right, I see divide. So that's what I'm going to do first. A lot of students believe that they might have to multiply, but remember, it's whichever comes first from left to right. So I'm going to do these two. 36 divided by 9 is 4. I didn't touch the times 2, so leave that alone. And I'm pretty sure you guys know how to do 4 times 2 at the end, which is 8. But as you can see, we're using PEMDAS to solve very large problems with multiple types of operations, adding or subtracting or dividing or multiplying. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do one example staying on that page, and then we'll try some skill checks. So if you stay on that page, take a look at example 3. And example 3 on that same page, page 47, okay, looks like this. Kind of looks weird in my opinion. It looks like this. I'm trying to write it perfectly. Whoa, that looks like a lot. Some weird symbols we've never seen before. How can we use PEMDAS here? Well, these symbols, the ones that look like this, squiggly ones, and these boxy ones are what we call brackets. Okay? Now, brackets are not mentioned here in PEMDAS, right? We don't see the word brackets anywhere. Okay, but just know that brackets are actually the same exact thing as parentheses, okay? So if you want to go back into your notes wherever you wrote this out, make sure in small parentheses you put brackets next to it, okay? So we're making sure that this is brackets are the same as parentheses. So maybe you're wondering, okay, but I see multiple types of brackets. How do I know what to do first? Well, we always want to start with the inner brackets. What does that mean, Mrs. Elliott? Well, that means that whichever ones are close and small together, that's what we do first. If you notice, these two squiggly line brackets are kind of far apart. These two are pretty close together, meaning that's what I'm going to do first. Remember, every time you solve something within it, that bracket is going to go away. So I'm going to start off with doing 5 plus 3 because that's like parentheses, and parentheses, remember, comes first, okay? So we're not even going to really deal with the minus 4 to the second power divided by 2 till we can clean all this out. So we're going to do 5 plus 3, which is 8. That little bracket, the bar one, is done. However, we still have the big squiggly ones outside. And we have 8. Did I touch the times 6? Nope. So I need to write it all out. Did I touch the minus 4 to the second power? Nope. Still need to write it out. Did I touch the divide by 2? Nope. Still need to write it out. And now, do I still have parentheses or brackets here? Yes, I do. I still need to do that first. Meaning we're going to do 8 times 6, which is 48. And you see, as you can see, this goes away. And everything that I didn't touch, we just rewrite. Now, do we have any more parentheses or any more brackets? I don't see any. So what is there to do next? Well, the next thing is to do exponents. Do we have any exponents here? Hey, yeah, we do. We got to the second power. Remember, this was just a fancy way of saying 4 times 4. And what is 4 times 4? 16. So now with everything else that I didn't touch, I just bring it down, 48. With the minus sign. Divide by 2. I didn't touch that either. See how this is now getting more and more simpler? So now what do I do next? Do I subtract? Do I divide? Again, we follow PEMDAS. We either multiply or divide. So we got to either multiply or divide. Do you see multiplication here or division? Not in that first part. In the second part I do, which I can divide 16 divided by 2. And what do you get? You get 8. Keep the 48 minus 8 alone. And 48 minus 8 is 40. So that's how we tackle some of these more complicated, longer problems, okay? And what we're going to do is we are going to do one more problem and we're done with this lesson. So the last one we're going to do, I'm going to do on a completely separate page, okay? I'm going to keep the PEMDAS nearby so we can always go back to it if anything. And we're going to start off, this is on page 48. And we're going to be working on skill check number 2. And we're going to be working on question 1, which is looks very interesting. Let's just say that. All right, so now we have all this. We even have a square root, which if you have not seen lesson 1.8, you're not going to really know how to do this. So I recommend you stop watching it if you haven't seen lesson 1.8, okay? Because it talks about square roots. So with this one, we have brackets and parentheses. So how do I know what to do first? Remember, we always start with the inner ones, right? This bracket is pretty far apart. This parentheses is pretty close together. And this parentheses is pretty close together. So I can kind of do both of them, if anything, are about at the same time. So I'm going to start off with this parentheses. And if I notice, I can't really subtract 5 and 13 yet because I have this little 2 up here, which is an exponent. So I got to do that first. When I do that, I get 25. So I'm going to leave that alone, and I can still actually solve the other parentheses. 6 minus 3 is 3. And because there's nothing else but the number 3, I don't really need to write out the parentheses. I can now do this parentheses. 25 minus 13. If you need to do it off to the side, that's okay. Oops, minus. And you should get 12. So right now I have 12 over here times 3 times the square root of 4. Do I still have some parentheses or some brackets inside? Yep, I do. So I still need to do that. So 12 times 3 is what I need to do. I'll do it off to the side over here. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. So 36. And all I'm now left with is that times square root of 4. Now remember, we talked about square roots having equal factors, right? So two numbers that when I multiply get me 4, and they have to be the same number. So think about it for a second. What number when I multiply gets me 4? Or the same two numbers? That's right, that number is 2. So the square root of 4 is 2. Can I now multiply this? Yes, I can. 36 times 2, we work that off to the side. Okay? And let's see what we get. 6 times 2 is 12. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 more is 7, making our answer 72. So we were able to get a very long, complicated problem and shorten it up to just one answer. And that's kind of the whole point of this lesson, which is all about order of operations.